appreciate you coming here. What do you think could be the next steps? Council's made a decision here to remove the cabin. It's a difficult decision. But what do you think could be the next steps from the community to help perhaps keep them there, to perhaps smooth over some of the issues that have been raised?
Yep. I think the way that the cabins are situated now, I know they're an eyesore, but there are groups, like people like-minded like myself, that can create something that's visually welcoming. You know, you see from the side of the road, from the road as you're driving down. The thing that gets me the most is that you've got these gates up. The prisoners have built these with their hands, and to me, to have these gates up there, it signals that, look, it's a prison thing, but it's not. We have to take that away and make it more visual. And there's like-minded people like myself that can create to make it look more appealing, visually appealing. And good management, good management. That's all it's about, really.
So just some sort of landscaping.
Definitely. It's amazing what fauna and flora can create amongst such eyesores of all sorts of buildings. Just creating that vision, that visual vision.
So Nanita, the caging around the work safe was always going to go. And we always had that short-term vision, but very soon as the work was developed, the shrubs were going in, the niceties. And it was a travesty that we never got a chance to show the public the finished product, and also the haven that it was going to give to the people that were in your town that were looking for a roof over their head. The question here is that we're now bound by legislation. The overwhelming sentiment of the people that came back to us was that they were removed. Once we make a decision, we cannot go, you're not allowed to readdress that decision, or there is a difficult pathway for us to readdress it, but there is certainly, boy, have I been overwhelmed by the number of people that have come to me that have said, well, we stayed quiet when we shouldn't have. So please, I encourage, and the question I have is, are you aware of the other people that you have in your community that are like-minded like you? They might not be able to save the 4 that are there, but where we go to the future, we would love to hold hands with the community. I'm not saying there, where, or anything, but Milton per se needs accommodation. So please, are you aware of other like-minded people?
Yes.
Sweet. Pathway forward. Councillor Graham, followed by Herbert.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'm not trying to be, don't take this the wrong way, but where were all your submissions in favour of it?
Yes.
We can only act on what we're told.
Exactly. So I've learned to be present. I want to be present in this space. I want to be able to be a part of a community. So now I'm here today to say that I'm present. I wasn't present when this all began, but once I saw it unfold, I felt to myself that I need to be present, like a few others of us. We need to be present and stand up for our town, that we feel we can help make a difference, better our town. Instead of, there's success stories with other small towns, and that we can learn from the examples instead of banging heads against with each other. We need to come together to make our town great, but not great, but for people who want to spend time there, to spend their money in our businesses, to help our businesses grow as well, that they want to come to Milton. And that is something that I'm passionate about. So that answer is, I want to be present.
Councillor Herbert, followed by Finch.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Anita. That's a really, it was a great submission and well done. And I'm sure we'll be seeing a bit more of you, which is good. So, hey, so we've got a contract for 10 currently, and that could, evolve into more. So did you realise that like whilst it's 4, there's more coming on stream? So whilst those 4 might go, the horse hasn't actually bolted, if you like. There could be an opportunity in the future. So I think it'd be really, as long as you realise that it's not just those 4.
Yep, I do.
Thank you.
Councillor Finch.
Thank you. Thank you. That was really great. Well done. When you're talking to others that were saying that they don't want them there, have they put forward ideas of where they would like to see them?
I was not. So can you readdress that question?
Have others suggested an alternate place for the cabins to be?
No, not at this stage. Could you actually tell me the boundaries of the camping ground? Are you
So what we can do is we can note it and we will get noted, and when we respond to your submission, we will give you a diagram. I know that anecdotally 11% of the smaller part was the footprint that we were using, but look, I couldn't tell you offhand, so it will be answered in the submission. Any further questions?
Your Worship, or something like that for a simple question, we can answer quicker. Like you'll be an answer through the submission process, just like you said.
That's what I said, yeah.
Yeah, but for the question, which is a simple question, we can give a simple answer, and we're happy to send it directly to you.
Councillors, any further questions? Let's take our time while Anita looks at the picture slowly. None? No further questions? Mahi, thank you.
Kia ora koutou katoa.
Now, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Oh, they're outside. Okay, so next on our list, team, we would have Bruce McGill, page 220. Okay, everyone, our apologies. I didn't actually know that we had a contingent sitting outside. So welcome everyone, welcome, and thank you for assisting us in the process. Staff, have we gone through the overarching? We have done. Thank you very much. So next submitter for this round is Bruce McGill, page 220. Bruce, welcome. Floor is yours.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm Bruce McGill. I'm a ratepayer from Owaka. Our family pays thousands and thousands of dollars of rates every year, and very little comes back in any way, any kind of service to us. I'm submitting this because the council has too many big challenges, and we want to be positive and proactive to support the council. I'm just a messenger tonight for ratepayers. Don't shoot the messenger, just understand the message. Now, those of you who have read my submission, it's very simple. Stop spending. I understand when the mayor came into this position he's got, the Inclusive District Council had very good funds, was in credit, and they were doing core business. Since then, it's all just been downhill. And as a ratepayer, I'm sick of it. It gives me no pleasure, and I'm sad to have to raise these issues. The council spending is out of control. I mean, I read it nearly every week in the paper. I read where the council's got financial challenges. The mayor was elected and the CEO appointed to run our council responsibly and on behalf of all ratepayers. The mayor inherited, I've talked about, the mayor inherited a very strong financial position. That's all gone. The mayor's role as head of the council is to ensure that the core services are efficiently delivered to meet the community needs and show a strong, positive leadership that brings the community together. Well, I'm sad to say that that's not happening. I think the mayor's attitude is dividing the district. I'll give you an example. We had a speaker come to town and a lot of people wanted to hear him speak. And it's on record that the mayor said, "Get out of my town." Mr. Mayor, it's not
Point
your
of
town.
order. So firstly, that wasn't what was said, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the LTP, so stick to the subject then.
Well, we as ratepayers, we're incredibly disappointed that there's been far too many big financial decisions made, and a lot of them have come amok. That's why my submission is to stop spending. Core services, yes. All the fringe fluffy stuff, no. You can't just keep putting rates up and up and up. The role of the CEO is to ensure
Point of
work.
order, we will please have it as a generalisation, not a specific person that you're addressing. We're a council, we act as a democratic team.
Okay, well, the council collectively, their role is to do the core services in a competent and to a high standard and financially funded properly. Some of the issues, some of the big issues, which I think need to be addressed, 3 waters, oxidation ponds, we're talking about doing core business, it has to be completed and well financed. Now, I think the oxidation ponds are right out of control. As it's the hub, I've heard varying prices from different people. The mayor tells me a different price to the CEO. One says it's finished, the other one says it's not finished. We don't seem to be able to get a correct figure on that. The Milton huts, goodness me, it's the council, all of you, it's just a shambles. That's going to cost ratepayers a lot of money. It was supposed to be a good deal. Smaller items, well, they're not small. I understand there's a pump with thousands and thousands of dollars sitting in a carton somewhere in Balclutha. It's the wrong size. I just can't believe this problem after problem. The oxidation pond in Nawaka, it's got a new concrete bridge. And our local councillor didn't know anything about it. And I understand it's going to be redundant in 3 months. I mean, I could go on and on and on where money's just been frittered away. The Environment Court, $500,000 fine. The mayor said, no problem, it's in Kitty.
At no point did I say no problems, so point of order once again, thank you.
Well, it ratepayers' money, 500,000, gone. The roads, I'll get really specific now. Our farm is between 2 council roads. The New Haven Road, it's had a no spray order on it for quite a number of years. Just recently, the road was sprayed, and as it started to brown off, there was a guy turned up with a big tractor and a mulcher, and he mulched the spray on the side of the road. Talk about dysfunctional. The Cannibal Bay Road, there's a truck and a digger turned up to cut off some corners because tourists were running off the road. And I said to the guy on the digger on the truck, are you going to do that corner? No, we've run out of money. No money left. A day later, I get a phone call from a representative of the Clutha District Council, and he says he's got 43,000 to spend on the Cannibal Bay Road. So a neighbour and I, we met them, spent an hour at a time, suggested what would be a good idea to make the road safer. I hear today that money's been relocated somewhere else. And the panic was the money had to be all spent by the end of June. Now, if I run my farm like that, I would have gone broke years ago. And that's exactly where you guys are headed. You're headed for bankruptcy, and you're going to put up the rates to cover your ass.
Language, thanks.
We, the ratepayers, used to be very proud of our mayor and the council, but it is with real sadness that is no longer the case. I just think you need to start running the council like a real business. Most businesses, if they get into trouble, they don't put their hand out for more rates. They reduce their costs. And that's what I suggest that you guys do.
Questions, team? Councillor Lynn.
Hi Bruce, thanks for your submission. I've probably got a couple of questions. I mean, I get that you want us to stick to core business and that's fine. So I'm just hitting your area, but what do we tell Aweka going forward? Catlins Coast, Catlins Historical Society, who have all submitted wanting funding, not necessarily for what you call core business. So what would you have us tell them to their applications for funding?
It's like any business. I mean, you can only spend, well, you should only spend what you have. You can't spend more than you have, then put the rates up. I understand the quotable values, that inflation proofs your rates. I've just had a quotable value on one block of our land. It's gone up 2.5 times. And I would say my rates on that block will go up 2.5 times.
Probably that's not the question I asked. I'm basically saying, do you support us funding
Non-core, no.
Aweka going forward, Catlins Coast and Catlins Historical that have all put in submissions for funding for various projects in the Aweka district? Would you support that?
Not at increased rates, no. The whole country, all of you are intelligent people, the country's in financial trouble.
That's fine. That's
The
it. That's what I
government's
wanted,
reducing
yes or no.
spending, everybody's reducing, and you guys want more rates.
Thank you.
You can't just keep giving every person that's got their hand, hey, I'd like some more money too.
No, you've answered my question. I wanted to know, as someone in the district, how you felt.
Councillor Vilwela.
So, thank you, Bruce. You just mentioned the quotable, your rating valuations done by quotable value have gone up by at least doubled. You're saying they've doubled.
No, I didn't say that. I said a block of ours. It's gone up 2.5 times. I'm not sure what the average is.
But it's at least doubled that block.
2.5 times.
Yeah. So you think our rates should be indexed to the quotable valuations.
No, I didn't say that. That's not what I said.
You did say.
No. What I'm saying is,
doubling.
if you've got two properties side by side, and one's valued at $1 million, quotable value, and one's at $500,000, I'll bet the rates on the $1 million is about roughly double.
Yeah.
Correct? So your rates are inflation proofed through quotable values before you come along and want a 20% increase in rates.
You're making it sound like, I think, the way you're making it sound is if the value goes up by doubles, then the rate should double.
Well, that's what I'm pointing out. That's how you inflation proof your rates. You don't need additional percentage increase on top of that. Your rates are already inflation proofed by quotable value.
So I think we should clarify and move on. So if, let's say the council is taking $1 million in rates and everyone's valuation went up by 200%, we would still only take $1 million of rates. The multiplying factor is changed. Quotable values is a totally separate process than where we are, and on individual rates, it is only the proportion that you go up that differentiates from the others. But us as a council, it means nothing. The $1 million of rates that we were putting forward on the old valuation will still be exactly the same. It will just be the multiplying factor of a different amount and the variation. So let's move on with questions, please, Tim. No further questions. Thank you for that, Bruce. Appreciate it. Next submitter, please. We've got Don Sinclair. So Don's one is on page 318. Welcome, Don, floor's yours.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm Don Sinclair from Tarcova Valley. My wife and I live in the Tarcova Valley. We do not receive or require anything from the Clutha District Council but gravel, and their contractor puts it on the road for us. Plus the grader servicing work and some drainage cleaning, and also some roadside weed spray. So really, as far as we're concerned, we say we're not really keen on any rates rises because we don't get anything really much. 10 years ago, 10 years long-term planning is just a crystal ball stuff. And 2 to 3 year plan will be enough forward planning, I believe, because of the rising costs and unknowns. Now, this climate change. Climate change is just a scheme, and all the modelling is done on computers. It's not really real. The US military can change the weather to whatever they wish based on the knowledge of the late Wilhelm Reich papers and cloud dusting and organ energy, and also the New Zealand-born Trevor James Constable. Both Constable worked for the US Army, and I worked with him. We in Tarcova Valley just compost green leaves and have just an outside fire to burn up all the wooden sticks up into the atmosphere, which in turn provides that great gas called CO2, which makes the crops grow. CO2 gas is referred to as the gas of life. Refitting project. I'm talking about now grants and money. Refitting project of our hut was a $50,000 job project, 2014 and 16. And the Sir Truby King Railway Bridge walking track was a $43,000 project completed in November 2020. Only last month, we obtained by way of 2 grants and some of our own money, raising the necessary funds of $8,234 to purchase a brand new tractor for cutting the grass down on the Sir Truby King track. These projects were all funded by way of grants and gift money, and no funds were ever asked of the Clutha ratepayers. So if a very small community, and I mean a very small community, and Tarcova can raise the funds for local projects, so can everyone else in Clutha. The free waters problem, which I see that personally as a nightmare. The sewage in our rivers and lakes today, in turn flows down the rivers and into the sea, and in turn leaches into the gravel and the soil all the way to the sea. Back in 2019, we had 2 Airbnb guests. They were 2 overseas water engineers, and they had been working on a contract updating the project of 2 large city water treatment plants in New Zealand, one being in the North Island, one being in the South Island. They informed my wife and I that the water sources throughout all of New Zealand had to have female hormones, estrogen in the water sources.
So hold on a tick, sorry, point of order, and I've already heard this.
Yes,
And we won't have it said in this chamber what won't be repeated, what you stated down in the WAC of that day, so move on from that subject.
the CDC added fluoride in the drinking water. It's just crazy move, as it was developed by the German military back in 1935-45, in turn used by the military to put into occupied countries' water supplies to make the local population docile, and in turn very controllable, plus killing a few off. The way just maybe in correcting these problems in regard to sewage treatment plants here in New Zealand is to build a treatment plant that operate the same as a nuclear powered submarine, which makes use of the condenser unit and purifies the water. Also, another quick way to get good, safe drinking water into houses could be to set up ratepayers' homes with rainwater tanks and fit in infrared ultraviolet heat exchanger units on the water line before the water enters the pressure pump. This action would also take the load off the CDC in dealing with stormwater problem. That's what I have to say.
Thank you for that. Questions for Don, please? Any questions, councillors? If not, thank you for that, Don.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next submitter is Barry Leslie. Is Barry there? I think I saw Barry. Yes, he is. Welcome, Barry. So Barry's on page 24 of same folder that we're on. Welcome, Barry. Floor's yours.
I'm Barry Leslie from Wagga, sunny Catlins. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on the long-term plan, or as it looks like to me, a long-term debt. The thing that frustrates me most is there is no mention of paying off debt or cost-cutting measures, just borrowing more. In today's economic climate, this will be monetary suicide. Local businesses, farmers, pensioners, and the ordinary people of the district are struggling. This long-term plan will be a major burden to them all and us. This spend and borrow cannot be allowed to continue. It's all very well skiding about keeping rates increases to around 5%. We'd have been much better off if rates increased and the money used on core infrastructure. A friend of mine told me recently that around 2016, the council had not much debt and a stuffed infrastructure. Now they've got a huge debt and still a stuffed infrastructure. Something's wrong. The CDC has spent millions on vanity projects. Fine if you've got the money, but we didn't. The combined cost of about 15 million for the Memorial Hall, toilets, and the Taylor Park cabins should have been spent on fixing the huge mess that is our sewage plants. Why is only one sewage plant compliant? After the CDC have been fined a heap of money, why are these not compliant now? We keep on hearing the mayor blaming the three water changes for the increased costs. The national government told voters that the three waters would be dead in the water if they got into power. So why wasn't there a plan B? We were told at the Wagga Soapbox meeting that the Taylor Park cabins were in the 2017 Milton Community Plan. I have seen that plan and nowhere is mentioned of these cabins. Then in 2023, 4 cabins were put there. No consultation at this stage. Until 2024, consultation after the cabins were put there. This debacle is going to cost ratepayers maybe $1 million. How can that cost blow out from around 30,000 each for the cabins to around 80,000? Was there a fixed price contract on these cabins? And if not, why not? Now the toilets in Milton and Balclutha. The toilets in Balclutha are a complete waste of money. There is toilets opposite them beside the warehouse. All the cafes also in close proximity have their own toilets. There is no parking on the main street side and buses cannot get near them. Great planning, eh? Now we hear the CDC would like to renew the toilets at Carter Point. Maybe the Balclutha ones would have been much better put there, and cheaper. Was there a fixed price contract on these toilets in Milton and Balclutha, and were they tendered for? If not, why not? The existing toilets in Carter Point could be refurbished. They just need to be cleaned regularly and maintained. Then I read a sob story in today's paper about the Balclutha Library. Why wasn't this building kept up to standard in the past? These problems should have been fixed before it got to this state. Invercargill City Council recently said they are going to have a 10% rate increase and reduce costs. Why can't the CDC say have a rates cap of 12 to 15% max and cut costs? It can be done. I think there is a huge overkill in the CDC of four-wheel drive vehicles. Do they need so many? Do they do much work off-road? Maybe they could replace some of these with hybrid cars. The Animal Ranger vehicles are huge. Do they pick up stray horses or cattle? How many times do they have more than a couple of dogs in the back? Why do they need to be so big? This could be another saving. Whoever made up the long-term plan consultation document should have been proofread them, because when you read the referred bit at the back to what page it referred to, it didn't match up. Well, somebody should have done that right. Finally, the CDC need to have a long-term hard look at their debt and cut their cloth accordingly. This long-term plan is seriously lacking in that facet. Thank you, a frustrated and angry ratepayer.
Thank you, Barry. If questions, please take you. Councillor Finch.
Thank you. You mentioned about the Balclutha toilets and there was toilets close by, but in Milton, there are not toilets close by for the public and the buses fill in.
No, but they already had a toilet there.
Did you see what they were like?
Yes, I've been in them.
We discussed.
They worked.
Further questioning team. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you. Oh, thanks, Barry. You made a comment there that we should have put our rates up before now, above the 4%. So in my time here, I don't think I've ever seen anyone come along and put a submission and put their rates up. So why didn't you come earlier?
I just went along with things and thought things would change, but it's all very well saying you kept it at 5%, you didn't do anything with that 5%. It should have been 10% and we should have, we'll look at the sewage plants, there's a prime example. They're stuffed. You paid 500 of our thousands of our dollars and they're still stuffed. If they'd have been a farmer, he'd have been gone.
So Barry, I've got an overview question because zero debt was about, I think we were still sitting net zero debt 3 years ago, somewhere about there. And quite literally, hand on heart, the Three Waters issues and the need to comply with the consents has been the overwhelming contributor to it. But let's look at the here and now in our 10-year plan, which we're doing tonight. Three Waters CapEx and OpEx over the next 10 years is $611 million. We have two mechanisms as such, two primary mechanisms to pay for that, rates and debt. There is no natural commercial balance where we can say yay or nay, because there's this new water regulator that'll crawl deal to us, as you say, and then we go back to have to do the work in a weaker position without tendering. Consequently, when you've got 6,947 urban rateable units and you've got just over 600 million in CapEx and OpEx and no option, this is the dichotomy that we're faced with. You told us not to raise the rates and not to raise the debt. The only issue with that would be is Tamata Aroa will insist on that 611 and it'll be more than 611 because that's only an estimate. So the challenge when you collide into the real world issues that we do around this table, we have two mechanisms, rates and debt. 600 million between 6,947 urban rateable units, which will primarily pick it up. No option to say no. So how do we do it?
Okay, but why aren't the sewage plants compliant now?
The sewage plants.
You've had a fine,
Yep.
and yet they're still stuffed. When I look out my window at midnight and there's a digger working at the back of sewage ponds, there's a problem, isn't there?
So every single sewage and water facility that we have a pathway to consenting with the amount of.
Must be a long pathway.
Yeah, unfortunately it is, and an expensive one, but I go back to my question, please. That pathway, as you insist on us meeting the requirements that we are desperately trying to do as a council, is estimated over the next 10 years to cost 611 million. How do we pay for it? Nor do we bear, and that's the real shame.
There's some infrastructure stuff going on in the past that hasn't happened.
Yeah, well, look, and I appreciate your input, Barry. I think that you can see the challenge that we have around this table is exactly the same challenge as every council in New Zealand. And talking with my colleagues up and down the country, the messaging back from the LTP is that no one in New Zealand has come up with the answer to that question. And here we all are as councils. But I thank you for your input. We take it on board, and I can assure you that we wear the debt and the rates heavily on our hearts every night. I'm so proud of the council that's hung in there. But like yourself, we just don't quite have an answer at the moment, and that's where all councils are. But Kira, thank you for your help. Who we got next? Trevor Houston. Welcome, Trevor. 131 is Trevor's. Welcome, Trevor. The floor's yours.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Firstly,
Congratulations to the new councillors, councillors Barron, across McAtammany, McCrosty, Mackie, and I've missed one. Martin, yes.
All the M's.
So I haven't actually presented to you fellas before, but yeah. Yes, we in the Clutha District are facing in one hit the largest rates increase in the history of either the CDC or its predecessor. Clutha District Council, or its predecessor, the Clutha County Council. Never before have the lives of so many been impacted or about to be impacted by so few. Essentially, the document put together by your staff, which we're consulting on, and the information that you councillors have to go through and collate and make a decision on. My concern, particularly in my community, which is Awaka and the Catlins, we've got a lot of elderly, and they now have to decide and prioritise between power, food, rates, transport, and insurance. Those that are renting have probably already had notification of rent increases. Hopefully, no one decides that they can not afford to have insurance. A quick question. Obviously, this consultation period has been underway for about 5 or 6 weeks. Other local authorities have given their staff and the time during the consultation period, given a directive to look for savings. Nowhere have I seen any sort of indication that, yeah, that's what we're doing. Actually, I should put my glasses on so I can actually read it, I then moved to inflation and rates increases. CDC before COVID were facing big increases in the cost of providing services. I agree. We all agree, the document states it. We're all facing big increases in the cost of doing stuff. Yet rates increased by less than 40% in a decade. We were presented with a 4% illusion. As Councillor Herbert sort of asked one of the previous submitters, I submitted for a long time, and how are you doing the 4% when it's actually more? You were borrowing. And now we get a greater than 20% hit in one go. As you can see in my submission, you're intending to raise the rates by 87.4% over a decade. I propose that you raise them a maximum of 8.74%. Let's split it. In the last 6 years, as an example of costs increasing, your document states that piping materials have gone up by 30%, yet your rates have only gone up to cover that by 24% in the same period. Moving on to how we operate, we have investment income. Part of it goes to offset the UAGC. My belief is all of it should go to offsetting the UAGC. And council also have an operating surplus. I see in the document of 400K a year. How do they have that, and why do they have that? Getting back to other organisations, and I've sort of headed this right sizing. The ORC has been called in the past a dysfunctional organisation. They employ 320 staff that cover Otago wide, from the Waitaki to Dunedin to Clutha to Central Otago Lakes District. The CDC employs 200 staff. Right sizing is being considered in the Waitaki district. I see in today's newspaper. Moving on to community housing, I passed a bit of a comment there about means testing's been and all that sort of stuff. Our vulnerable don't live there because they want to, they need to, and that's a problem. Moving on again to another thing I raised, libraries. Have you considered that you go back to the good old days, Awaka had library services 2 or 3 days a week. If you had to work Awaka's library services in with Milton's, 1 week it would be 3 days, 2 days. The other week, the other town would go to 3 days, 2 days. So you could actually cover both districts with a couple of staff. Because at the moment in Awaka, we have in the Library Information Centre, I think 2.5 full-time staff and a 0.25 cleaner. Infrastructure, service delivery and projects. We have had the distraction of Three Waters, I agree. My belief is the real reason that we have issues with the Three Waters. There's been a historical period, probably since the schemes were put in,
by an inaction and a denial that anything was really a problem. This goes back to the 70s in a Waka as an example. The sewage was put in, nothing has been done since, apart from biofiltro, which, we've got 5 of those plants. None of them are compliant. But I did have an indication a couple of years ago, got it in writing. I put a question to the mayor and I got a response. Waka's problem will be sorted in 2 years. 2 years is up. The Catlins has an integrated catchment group that's formulating the plans of the Catlins. In the Catlins, we have 2 biofiltro plants, Kakapoint and Waka. It would be great if they could be compliant, because as one of the previous submitters says, if that was a dairy farmer, they'd be gone. Moving on also into the 3 waters aspect, is it logical to pump all of the water you do to stock? Putting chlorine in it, essentially it adds a lot of cost. And working into that your document states 29% is lost in the process of distribution due to leaks. If the new Greenfield scheme has a unit cost in 2024-25 of $664 intended, and the urban connections on that same scheme, if their full unit is $772, would it be prudent at this point to ramp up the costs to the other scheme users that now range from $233 to $521 to prepare them, or basically pay it forward some money for their upgrades? Talking upgrades, Marflat and Purua have both had some modifications done, and after they commissioned, they needed more. Obviously, technology's changed. That has to be sourced from offshore, which meant delays. 3 Waters' success always is dependent on the best technologies, the best systems, and the best understanding of these at the very least. Accurate costings and delivery should be the aim and the outcome. The end result is on budget, on time, and working. Capital upgrades on your 3 Waters is planned to be, depending on where you look in your document, because I've found figures of 467.5 mil, 282.5, and it's somewhere $600 million. But over the last 3 years, we've spent $26.9 million per year. The planned expenditure, according to your figures, is somewhere in the range of $28 to $60 million per year going forward. But what about if you plan the upgrades for a longer period? If, you know, in my setting up a business, not every time did I have the money. I half built 4 motels with only half the money. And at the point I approached the bank, hey, they were sort of agreeable to, you've done a pretty ballsy thing. Originally I said, no, you've told us why, how you're going to complete it if we don't. They actually said yes. So unless you talk to the regulator, 5 years, 10 years, hey, you could even spin it out to 15 years. Moving on then to where I believe you can really save money for all ratepayers, because we all pay the UAGC. In the year, the increase between what we were charged in the year 2023-24, which is the current year, and what you're proposing, for things like council, which is councillors, the mayor, a PA, and something else, has increased by 32% year on year. Libraries have also increased by 25%, yet the rate increase has been 21%, which again swings us back to right sizing. If right sizing can be achieved, and you can save some money, hey, that's actually positive, because you may need less librarians, you may even need less council staff. What can we get rid of? Could we save some money by having no Freedom Camping Ranger? Because essentially, as I say in my submission, the quantifiable spend, which is the real spend, is the stuff they're only going to spend anyway. If you had put them into campground, I know you've got a Freedom Camp, if they went to campground, they're going to spend it as well. Get rid of a dog ranger, because why have you got 2? And, you know, in my submission, I stated, why are you topping up animal control through the UAGC when you must get more than enough to run 2 people at the most. Also, surplus probably is a waste minimisation officer and the Enviro skills. You know, in your document, you had some consultation about waste management. Partway through, it says, oh, we put it in here, we don't have to consult on it. What a complete waste of a whole page. And it was serious, a whole page. Removing also, creating a saving per year of 1.526 million is economic development. Because, hey, we're a thriving industry. Farmers amongst us know that all levies, meat and lamb levies, what have they gained you? The market determines what you get. Same as economic development. At some point, we're big enough, robust enough community and economy to be able to sustain it ourselves. Information centres are places people go when they've got some time to kill. Because essentially, as my submission stated, we run a business for 20 plus years. At the end of that period, we used the phone to get people in, and that was just it. And I didn't have a landline. Growing tourism can also disappear, which is some money for Cleveland development to grow tourism. So again, savings of 1.526 million a year, or thereabouts. Savings of $15.26 million over a decade. Grants, because everyone wants a grant, a handout. So we've got annual plan submissions, and then we've got handout submissions. I know some groups of work have come up for it, but my view, my long-held view, and you can see my maths in my response. No to the hub and no to the Cross Recreation Centre grant. The reason being, the hub has a robust business case, and we were the bank, and it should be enough. And also the hub, Cross Recreation Centre, if they raise their tariff by $1 per person, they get 50 grand. That is success. They will say they are a victim of the success. They need another 50 grand. It can be sorted in-house by the hub. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Trevor. Questions, please, Councillor Grant.
Yeah, Trev, always a pleasure to see you here. You never fail. Just interested on your comments on the water scheme about chlorinating water for stock use. So how do you actually solve that? Do you run separate lines, one non-chlorinated and one chlorinated? Because some of it's the human consumption.
Yeah. I'd use the example some years ago, Bruce, of you brought in harmonisation for 3 waters, so sewage, water and stormwater. The rationale was wherever you live in a community, you get the same. So I use the same analogy for rural water. Perhaps you need to charge the drinking rate. Practical solution.
But that doesn't solve.
For everyone, for every unit. Every unit becomes the drinking water rate because it's the same quality as the water that goes to some of those consumers that are urban.
But you're still feeding stock chlorinated water.
Oh, well, you are feeding stock chlorinated water. That's a true statement. You won't change that unless you're going to take it right out.
I thought that was the issue you brought up, that why are we wasting money for chlorinated water?
Yeah, it is. But again, your question, the way I understood it, is what's the alternative? The alternative is harmonise all of the water schemes like you did the 3 waters. It's just the same. The water is just the same. It's treated. It's just you get your animals to drink it.
Trevor, can I ask the question? You are aware that urban water primarily is on demand, whereas the rural is unit rate. So the unit rate is 1 unit per day, whereas the cost for the town suppliers turn the tap on all day. If that's so they're not you're comparing apples with oranges.
Well, if I use the example of say Clinton, I think Kakapo and Waka, maybe Wahola, we're restricted. So we do pay for a unit, and that's all we get. The other thing is, when I hit the motels, I was keen to have a water meter. That's the other way you go. You just water meter it. Like you be brave and you stick it in. So you know people's usage and you incentivise better usage.
Questions, please turn. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Trev. Thank you very much for coming along and being involved in the process. Just in your comment to do with the West Otago Vintage Museum, you say that you suggest that it could be a loan and just targeted across the people of West Otago. So is your philosophy going forward that each particular ward will fund its own projects like that? Or do you think separated we're stronger, or are we better together? You know, the Kaka Point toilets and surf life saving, the Waka looking forward, Captain's Coast, Captain's Historic. Do you think they should just be funded by the Captain's Ward? Are we going to be divide and conquer, or are we going to be together stronger?
So the I'm trying to understand the structure of your intended museum. So it's like a trust, or it's a.
And I suppose my question is, you're saying that the funding from that should be a targeted rating of West Otago. My question is, so for community projects going forward, do you think each ward should stand on its own? You're asking us to.
Yeah. Well, I was just using an analogy that I have in the past. You know, West Otago Health, as an example. You know, you came in and it was okay to fund it with a loan. That was workable, was doable. And I was supportive of that. I thought it was a great idea. Yeah, if that's what my submission leads to, it's like, yeah, well, that's probably a possibility then. Again, if you go back to, say, Waka, you know, we have a really good swimming pool, a really good community centre. We understand things like stock drives, cheese rolls, fundraising. There's a hell of a lot of things that you can do. Or even, you know, Councillor Finch was out at the Telford Market Day, and she approached me. My response was, no, I don't have any cash. I did go home though, Councillor Finch, and I did buy one of the $50 tickets for your Milton swimming pool, because last year I made the same comment to Councillor Payne about the hub. Make some cheese rolls, I'll buy it. You had a raffle, I supported it. I'm from Waka. My grandparents in the 50s lived in Milton. They then moved to Stirling and did a little development. They did the same thing down in Riversdale, and then they ended up in Waka. So yeah, I believe supporting local is good. My connection with Milton went back 60, 70 years. And yeah, I support it.
Further questions, Tony? Councillor, that smile at your face, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Trevor, just a question. When you welcomed us new councillors, should we be concerned?
No, the only thing I sort of left out there, Councillor Martin, was I didn't get to see 7 days this week, so I come here instead. 7:30. I decided to come to present to the council, but no, just kidding. I sometimes feel like the Joker when I come here.
And another question, Trevor, you're talking about removing levies. In one section here, you're talking about the tourism and so forth.
Yeah.
Do you realise the impacts that you made a quote there about the wool levies?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the impact that has had on the wool industry in the last 30 years? It's only gone in one direction.
At the moment, it's going back up.
It's only went one direction.
Yeah. Again, my thing. Oh, you're talking downwards.
Yeah, the wool hasn't bounced back.
Yeah, the thing I was sort of looking at there was, you know, if you look at, say, interventions in the dairy industry, you know, we had mountains of butter, we gave to Russia and brought larders. We had mutton, we brought larders. We rented it, you know, they killed them in the main street of Invercargill. They haven't really been a success, have they? So, and what determines how you succeed the best in the world? Resilience, thinking outside the square, and meeting the market, basically. You know, as another example of you know, meeting the market, agriculture has got a brief mention here. They have a thing called Meet the Need. I work at Lochinvar, and the McNabs they donate animals to meet the need. I had some lambs that I refuse to put in the sale yards because they're probably $35. And I have a couple of a lifelong friend at Wacker. So I jacked up some grazing with this fella's daughter and I donated to him 6 lambs. The deal is I get 2 back. And that's my meet the need and support a good friend I have in a Wacker through these hard times. Because who should really support him? His daughters. And it's like they're both, you know, and that's the sort of effect it's having in our community. She can hardly keep a roof over her own head. She has one daughter at home. And, you know, I'm raising a paddock with some sheep because I will not sell in the sale yards. And a couple of pensioners get some good out of it. If my father was still at Poonaware, he'd have probably got them. But he isn't here, so he doesn't really need a couple of sheep, does he?
Right, team, questions, any further questions? I do have one. I cannot let you go without asking this question, Trevor. 2 or 3 years back, first time ever, I heard the figure from you of $30 million for the hub. When we've said time and time and time and time again, 24.8 is it, Ken, or 24.6? Are you willing to concede that it wasn't 30?
I will concede that it was over its initial spend, yes. The other thing I guess I probably concede as well, Brian. This is probably the first time that you haven't given me a point of order.
And you haven't sworn and you haven't done it, so I congratulate you, Trev. Enjoyed your presentation as always.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you for going online and buying your ticket, by the way.
Righto team, we got Lucky last all the way from West Otago, page 404. One of West Otago's community champions has given up more than their night. They've given up time on the road and everything. Welcome, Hans.
I'm actually almost frightened to come up here.
You're not heard.
All right, Mr. Mayor, councillors, my name is Hans van der Linden. I'm here to represent the Management Committee of the West Otago Community Centre. I have an apology for Robert Kane, our chairman who's overseas sorting out their Hereford problems. Holding the leash over there, I've got Lynn Rainbird, she's their very able secretary. West Otago Community Centre, we've reached a critical crossroad. We are here to discuss our funding request to enable the final stage of West Otago Community Centre upgrade to proceed. The work carried out to date has been quite straightforward. Strengthen the roof so it doesn't wind up like Stadium Southland. We did that. Increase the pitch so we can get rid of the butanol where it was on both the theatre and the squash courts. We re-roof these areas along with the main hall, the long run iron. We installed compliant rigging and electrical infrastructure in the theatre. $854,000 later, we can put the umbrellas away and the job's done. This now leaves the central hub of the complex. This area includes the foyer, social room, meeting room, and service areas. The butanol is past its use-by date. The roof structure can best be described as bouncy, if you're game. We have a few possible scenarios to deal with this. The first being we pursue any available solutions with a view to extending the life of the existing roof structure and the butanol membrane and staying with our own financial resources. This would most likely involve the application of a waterproof liquid rubber or silicone membrane. Any remaining community centre reserves we could use on interior maintenance and renovation. Our indicative annual financial forecasts, however, indicate that we are unlikely to be able to replace these reserves from future trading surpluses. I think as a footnote to that, I think our insurance alone is 44% of our total gross income. Just insurance, so we haven't turned the wheel yet. The council, under this scenario, the council would likely not need to have any significant financial involvement at this time. The West Otago Community Board may need to assist. More importantly, we have just successfully kicked the can down the road for what, maybe 10 years? Alternative two is, as presented in our submission, the construction of a replacement roof structure over the central hub of the building. Reinstate, upgrade the interior spaces. Install upgraded fire alarm systems and mechanical ventilation, which is actually, this is a footnote, about $250,000, just those two items. Current estimate cost is approximately 1.35, 1.4 mil. Some of the included interior renovation work may be able to be deferred if funding limitations dictate it. Council would need to make a commitment to contribute up to 900,000. This assumes that the project can attract adequate support from charitable community funding organisations. Also, that costs do not escalate over time. The West Otago Community Board would need to be fully committed to assistive funding. Alternative 3 is replace the roof structure, re-roof, and reinstate the interior space to a usable, if suboptimal, state. Indications are that if we defer enough of the internal refit, we may be able to make a significant start for under $1 million, particularly if we were permitted to defer the installation of a type 4 fire alarm system just one more time. Remaining work will still need to be carried out in the future. The requirement for council involvement would be proportionally reduced. The community board would still need to be fully committed. Alternative 4, the final option is the inclusion of the West Otago Community Library into our complex. Being a recent addition, we have no design or cost estimates for this. There would obviously need to be a significant increase to the level of council funding. However, a large proportion of this would be offset against the construction of a replacement standalone library building at a later date. This is by far the most desirable alternative for West Otago community. The library is presently plonked in front of our complex. It interferes with the entranceway, particularly for larger functions and funerals. Aesthetically, we would be able to enhance the street appearance and create a superior courtyard area. We would have the ability to share resources, staff, spaces, costs and security, and create a far more functional and inviting facility. We could proceed with our second or third scenario as outlined and make provision to just take the library on at a later date. However, this would significantly restrict future design options and consequently limit how well the community library would be able to be integrated into our complex. Our committee appreciates that we are constrained by council planning and decision making. Only you, our councillors, can determine the district's funding priorities. We would, however, like some clarity. We can then proceed with whatever course of action is available to us. We are particularly anxious to make a start if council decides that the inclusion of the library is not an option, but that some degree of funding was available to us while current pricing is in place. We thank you for this opportunity to make this submission.
Thank you, Hans. Questions, please, Tim. You've silenced us. Oh, sorry, John.
Yeah, I thought I might say something. Thank you, Hans. Thank you very much for coming along and with your assistant, taking the time. And look, on behalf of the community, thanks for what you've done already. Re-roofing the whole theatre and the squash court and now the last stage. So 3 questions from me. The joint venture, if there's going to be a proposed joint venture with the library, when do you need to know by?
Well, the whole thing's sort of a timing issue for us to, one of our sources of funds would be the Community Infrastructure Fund, or whatever it's called, from the Lotteries Commission. So there's 2 funding rounds, one's in September, one's February, March or something. So that's 6-month intervals. If we were trying to make it, if we were trying to do it in the summer of 25, 26, I'd need to know in plenty of time to get an application away by the September. And they have indicated, we've already had 1 grant from them, and they have indicated that our project fits very well with the criteria of their fund. So given the limitation that they've been reduced from 28 million to 14 million in that fund now, they're certainly, I think, looking at reasonably favourable.
Thank you. The second one, so you've re-roofed a couple of bits now. The bit that's left to re-roof, can just let the councillors know the state of that roof now in the weather events with the oncoming winter. How does it look inside on a rainy day?
Well, we're starting to get problems. We had one of the beams holding the roof structure up, are plywood box beams. We've had one fail. We had crawlers jack it back up again and strengthen it. The butenol's starting to lift in places. We're getting leaks. There's a heap of paint falling off the ceiling last time I looked from where there'd been a leak. It's not leaking bad, but we're going to have to start spending money on it. Now we've got about 130,000 bucks at a real push of money available to us. If we spend it all patching up what we've got, then we'll have nothing available, and the whole project just becomes a little bit harder again, doesn't it?
So that leads on to the next one, and you've just alluded to that. If you put a Band-Aid over it, so to speak, how long is the Band-Aid expected to last?
How long's a piece of string? Well, I mean, I talked to Roofcraft and Gore about using that liquid rubber stuff they can paint on, and he seemed to think that could wind up having to be an annual application because it does crack with all the expansion and contraction in the timber roof. Subsequently, Robert ran an outfit in Auckland regarding a silicon-based product, which is supposed to have a lot more expansion in it. But once again, I mean, we really see them as temporary solutions to buy us time. But I don't think that's the best long-term solution. I mean, if we can get this hub, if we get the middle of the job done, the rest of the building now is in excellent order. It's going to do us for the next couple of 3 generations, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Hans. I'm trying to formulate this into a question so they don't shut me up. But then it's the last one. How do you think it's going to be more palatable and less public outcry for a CDC library to be put into a hub, library being part of it, for $1.4 million is a lot more palatable than 24.6? You think? Do you think that would stop half the people being making submissions today?
Now, sort of lost the wing bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we put the library in, it depends. I mean, the way I would see us actually put the library in there is, there's a picture in the submission somewhere where there's a whole new roof structure. So we would just make that thing even a bit longer or reshape it somewhere rather and rejig the inside. But we're still going to spend more money. I mean, whether or not we spend another $500,000 or $1 million, I wouldn't have a clue. But yeah, so how did that relate to the question?
That's good.
Councillor Volwilli.
So has there been something drawn up, even just on the back of an envelope, on how the library would interact?
No, not at this point. We were approached by our councillors and the CDC staff, seeing we were working on the State Street project, that had we considered put it, including the library. And it was only a couple of 3 months ago. So we had a couple of meetings with Debbie. The whole idea of integrating the library is basically being able to share spaces. For example, we have a beautiful theatre in there, which is only half part utilised for 2 or 3 months of the year. They immediately see them being able to use that for their holiday programs and same with the social room space. And for us, a very big advantage is having staff in the building rather than what happens now, which is, it's just a volunteer committee trying to keep an eye on it, which does generate a few problems.
Would the library, most of the library If the library wasn't there, would it be able to fit mostly within the existing floor plan area? Or would it have to be?
Probably not, probably not. And I don't know if, and it was just a matter of making the new roof, but taking it further out. And the actual roof structure that we're talking about doing, I think from memory, was about 600K. And all the rest of the money is refitting the outside. So if we had to chuck another couple of 100K out to take it out a bit further, I think that would be a hell of a lot cheaper than starting all over again from scratch.
So that's replacing the beams there, putting steel beams. in.
Steel beams and long run iron, and then we've got to stick the new ceiling in obviously and redo the linings, and that's where a lot of the money winds up going.
Thank you.
Councillor Payne.
Thanks, Your Worship. Hans, yeah, thanks for coming along. I'm assuming Butanol is a flat roof, is it? Like there'll be no pitch on it, it'll be a flat
Yes.
roof. You jokingly started your opening spiel with the fact about Stadium Southland and snow loading and all that. And we've since talked about the structure and how it's failing and everything. That could actually be could that be a possible real scenario? That
Well,
you've got a heavy
yes.
snowfall.
Well, it hasn't yet, but having said that, one of the beams that said by probably 150 mil, and we got them jacked back up again, and another layer of plywood put on the outside and strengthened and farted about, and then when they took the jacks off, it came down again, but nowhere near as far. I don't know. I haven't looked at the others, but there's no sign of them moving. The biggest issue is, if you were to say, well, let's just replace the butanol, you've then got to tear the existing ply, 12 mil ply off, replace it with 18 mil ply, which is going to add weight loading. How the hell are we going to get an engineer to certify that? Because you can guarantee CDC you want to know about it. I'd say really replacing the butanol is not really an option. But the best we can do is try a bit of chewing gum at it and all go to church on Sunday.
I just had a whisper from it's the same engineer that designed the Stadium Southland, so yeah, thank you.
So here's the rub, it's because I know that you're well immersed in the community and you've been working on this for a number of years. There's been well over $1 million, am I going to say, that the community's already put into the facility? So there's, in recent times.
No, we've actually spent 850 odd thousand. What's come out of the community is $180,000 from the West Target Community Board. All the rest of it has come through our reserves from the Theatrical Society, from Community Trust South, and this private donation.
So where I'm leading to is yesterday at the West Target Community Board, there was members of the public there, and they brought up opposition to this plan.
Yep.
That I wanted to tease out more. And in fairness to them, and like so many around our district, there's a real fear and angst around the rate rises, around everything. And consequently, they said, look, this is not the time, this is not the place, and we don't have enough information. You're immersed in your community. Where do you honestly feel, if we had to poll the community, what do you think the level of support is for this?
I'll probably be quite honest to say that we haven't probably been exposing the whole project as much as we perhaps could have been. We've just been immersed in getting the job done. And we've been able to do that because we've been able to go do it without involving community funds as such, other than we're just on a community board.
So I'm trying, time is critical.
Yes.
And we've got polarising opinions, shall we say. So let me get it right in the head. The commitment from the council would virtually have to be now, but you would draw down December 25?
I would be assuming at the moment, we still have our same contractors in place. We would be looking at the summer 25, 26. If there was no inclusion of the library.
So we've heard from many tonight, don't do it. Could you articulate what the consequences would be to your community if we don't do it?
We don't do it. I'm quite confident that we can keep the water out for the time being, and it'll probably see me out, but it's not going to see my kids out. So you're still going to have the problem. And Okay, I mean, I know it's all very easy to say, don't do it, but how do we let our and it is critical infrastructure, Brian, it's not just.
Yeah,
And, you know, you can balance it against museums and all sorts of other shit, but that's the place we go to when we've got a problem, that's the place where all our schools do all their activity, that's the place,
yeah.
you know, it's.
Seeing Trev's still here, I suppose it'd be the same, we're not allowed to swear, we'll keep that one right, but I love the passion, so. Therein lies that, also, you mentioned that the fire alarm system was deferred, are you still able to get insurance on the building when you defer the fire alarm
Yeah,
system?
so what it's got now is a type 2 fire alarm system that's got sort of break the glass, push the button system.
Yep.
Okay, so when we went for our builders consent first, for the first one, we did talk to the CDC staff. We did get a fire plan thing done, which you have to do for a building consent. And I think the type 4 system that's supposed to be in there is about $100,000. All right, so at that point, we had a choice. We either put a fire alarm system in or we kept the water out of the theatre and we made the theatre compliant. And it has got a fire alarm system. And to be honest, if we had a fire, I mean, what's the point of a fire alarm system? It's to save human life, I would have thought. So the building's not that big. It's got exits all over the bloody place. Push the button. There's a it sets off all your alarms and tells everyone to evacuate.
I love this, Hans, and the fact that this is a micro of what we're facing right across. This is the don't spend, do spend, and the reality that we have, and I thank you for the time and for your honest answers. So what are we? Let's do the LTP. There is still the issue that the community that I've spoken to say they're not aware of the details, they're not aware of the facts. How can they make a decision? And then the onus falls onto you because it's your project. We're one step removed, like we have been with others. How will we have confidence that we've embraced and engaged with the community when, the trust that we put into you, and I do trust you. But
it's actually a real dilemma.
Yeah.
You've placed there. Part of that dilemma is, which is a very real dilemma, is we really struggle to get good, competent people to come on our committees, sort out our health trust, to sort out our community centres. And everybody can argue against why we shouldn't do it. Okay, come in and fix it.
Yeah.
I'm
thinking we're going to have the same problem in 14 months' time trying to find councillors. Because the same thing. But look, Hans, is there any more questions? I think we've threshed out, we've got a clear picture. I appreciate you coming over and telling it from the heart. Safe travels on the way home. We might even be able to splash out and give you a cup of coffee before you go. Thank you, Hans, and also thank you for assistance. Sorry, your name was, my head's a mush at the moment. Thank you. To all the submitters that are still here, thank you for coming and assisting us. I'm going to pass a motion now that the LTP hearing is adjourned till 9 a.m. and is adjourned at 9. It's adjourned at 8:53 p.m. and we reconvene at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, Friday the 24th. We have to do that because